Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. It's great to be here. I'm going to try and find my notes here. Should have done this when I was waiting over there. All right. So great to be here this morning. I'm Barrett O'Connor. I'm the general manager, it says up there, of general merchandise, which we decided was a mouthful. So we switched that to household. Somebody told me this morning that GM of a household is typically a name for somebody who is a stay-at-home parent. So depending on how this goes today, I'm not going to change my title, but may have a different role. We'll find out. All right. Well, I'm very excited this morning to be here with Caitlin, who is the director of TheraBreath, the Church and Dwight brand. But we're here this morning to talk about what it means to be a challenger brand and what TheraBreath is doing differently in the marketplace. Now, to get everybody grounded, I'm going to read a definition here of what it means to be a challenger brand. What is a challenger brand? Challenger brand is categorized by the mindset that sees, categorized by a mindset which sees they have business ambitions beyond conventional resources and an intent to bring a change to the industry. When Caitlin and I were connecting, preparing for today, I realized that Fetch and TheraBreath have actually a lot more in common than you would think for a rewards app and a mouthwash. Hard to believe. But as you think about our origin story, we're both rooted in seeing an opportunity in the marketplace, a gap that we know that we could each fill for consumers that were looking for something different. Fetch was founded by a college student who wanted to bring brands closer to consumers, to take out all of the middle noise that can happen as a brand is trying to talk to their consumer. He launched Fetch, a rewards platform that literally brings brands as the content in the app. So you open up Fetch, you're learning about brands, you're seeing offers from brands. You then take action. You go to the store after learning about that brand, you scan your receipt to prove that you've bought that brand, and you immediately receive from the brand in a one-to-one transaction Fetch points, which become a currency that then you can translate into gift cards and offline merchandise. That is huge, and it takes out, again, that interruption that can sometimes happen because the brands are finally the content. We're here this morning to hear more about how TheraBreath has changed. They've seen that opportunity, and they've jumped at it. They've changed the marketplace in terms of what consumers were saying and not being heard. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Caitlin this morning, the director of TheraBreath.
Thank you, Barrett. I'm very excited to be here. I am extraordinarily passionate about TheraBreath and cannot wait to talk to you all about the authenticity of the brand and really what the founder did to challenge the mouthwash category and how we as Church and Dwight have taken it to a whole new level of success. So before we get started, I'd love to get a pulse from the audience. Please raise your hand if you have heard of TheraBreath. I'd say maybe 40%. Keep your hand up if you use TheraBreath. Okay, we've gone down to like 15%. So TheraBreath, as a challenger brand, has only 7% unaided brand awareness and 20% aided, right? So you all obviously knew about it. It's mouthwash in here. It's a really low awareness brand. We now have a 15% share of the total mouthwash category. The business has more than doubled since we bought it. It's really, really challenging the whole category, the way consumers think about their oral care. So I'm really excited to dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. So as the director overseeing the brand, what does it mean to you to be identified as a challenger brand?
It is really exciting, and I'm really proud of it. I mean, Dr. Katz really gets the credit here. He was a dentist, a bacteriologist, and a father. And he truly challenged the status quo. He created a mouthwash that was so unique and different to everything that existed. What he gave consumers was the luxury of not having to make sacrifices or compromises. And I think at its core, TheraBreath is just such an authentic brand and continues to be so, right? We're constantly driving ourselves to listen to consumers, hear what they have to say, and use that as motivation going forward, which I think is so important for, smaller brands.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say fundamentally makes TheraBreath different?
So I like to say that the TheraBreath difference is clear because all of our mouthwashes are clear. There's no dyes, there's no colorants in our mouthwash. And it's, other than the product like visual, the real difference is the origin story, right? It is so unique. So as I mentioned, Dr. Katz was a dentist, and his teenage daughter actually came home from school because she was being bullied for bad breath. And she's like, Dad, like, I need help. Like, I'm being bullied. They tried everything and nothing was working for her. So using his bacteriology background, he took a sample off her tongue. He noticed it was coated in white, went to the lab at UCLA and basically realized the type of bacteria that was giving her bad breath. Used that knowledge to create a mouthwash formula that was going to not mask her bad breath, but was truly going to change the chemistry of the bacteria in her mouth to eliminate the bacteria that was causing bad breath. The origin story is actually on the back of every bottle. And just 5 days ago, this made my day. The Memesar account on Instagram, like, posted about it. Like, someone called it out. It's like, can you imagine being Dr. Katz's daughter? Literally on the back of every bottle, it's like, nothing.
She changed her name for sure.
So I think that is just like truly at its heart, like the most unique thing about TheraBreath.
That's outstanding. I did see that and got a good laugh out of it because, as you'll see on the packaging here, it does seem to be the original packaging. So talk to us about kind of that build to distribution.
Yeah, so TheraBreath as a brand was started in 1993, so 31 years ago. 20 years ago, probably very, very few people in this room had heard about it. It had very low distribution. 2 years ago, we were the number 5 mouthwash brand. Today, we're number 3. And a lot of that distribution build is attributable to our presence on shelf. So I love talking to consumers that use TheraBreath. Whenever I find them, like I say, out in the wild, I'll probe and I'm curious and like, tell me how you heard about us. Tell me why you buy us. Like, what drove you in? And a lot of people will say like, oh, it was like the stopping power of your packaging. Like in a sea of like blue bottles, our rainbow really, really, truly stands out, right? It's such a unique presence. We have bright, bold bottle colors. We have apothecary-esque packaging, and it just invites the consumer to come in and learn more about the brand. But in addition to the packaging, each product is like benefit specific, which I think is really helpful for consumers that are like, hey, my dentist told me I had bleeding gums. Like, oh, this is literally a mouthwash for healthy gums. Like, it works. And then the third thing is that's really helped build distribution is what I like to call minivation. So when this brand was starting out, small team out of California working with retailers, just like Rite Aid, and they didn't necessarily have the power yet to get more facings. And they were suffering from out of stock issues. So the minivation they did was like, all right, let's create a larger size. I mean, it seems so obvious now, but for them, this was a really, really big deal. And selling in the 1 liter bottle, which is about twice as big as the ones you see up here on the podium, that solved the issue. You got a second facing, so you had more shelf space. You had your loyal consumers willing to pay more for the bigger bottle. They were saving on a price per ounce basis, and you weren't having your out of stock issues anymore. So now we have 4 flavors, 4 different benefits in our liter bottle. Every single one of them is 100% incremental when it gets added. 100%. That's like unheard of, but has truly been a great way to build distribution. We're seeing the same success now with our little bottles. So I actually just met a gentleman outside as Barrett and I were presenting who's like, oh my God, TheraBreath changed my life. And he pulled his 3-ounce TheraBreath bottle out of his bag and he's like, I travel with this everywhere. And I was like, I love you. This is amazing. Maybe you'll get featured on social later. But it's like, thinking of like, where are consumers? Where are they going? Are they traveling? Do they need things on the go? So just having different sizes and formats for every type, like every use in life.
That really felt like it was almost a setup. Like we're pulling the bottles out. He's like, wait! It was outstanding. So talk to us more about the acquisition. How do you maintain that challenger mindset after being acquired by a larger company like Church & Dwight?
Yeah, I think truthfully, in my experience, it really had to come from the top down, right? I am not the person at Church & Dwight deciding which brands to acquire. do not have that level of responsibility. So as the company and the board of directors are deciding, like, what are we buying? It was great because I was very empowered by leadership to say, do not corporatize this brand. And me as the steward, as the leader of TheraBreath across the organization, I took that very, very seriously. And so that meant, spending the 6 months we had with the current employees that had worked for Dr. Katz to absorb everything, right? So I suddenly was not the expert in the room. I had to become very, very good at listening so that I could embody this brand and ensure that its ethos moved forward well. I also had to unlearn process because the way an 18-person team in California working for Dr. Katz is going to approach a problem is very different than the way Church and Dwight, a 3,000 employee organization, is going to do it. So unlearning process was definitely the biggest learning experience, but I think it's something that really helped enable us to be successful and not lose any of the equity that this brand had already established.
That's outstanding. How would you say you bring that challenger mindset into your marketing? How do you show up differently outside of obviously what we've just talked about in terms of the packaging?
So one of the biggest challenges that a challenger brand, I think, deals with on a really regular basis is your share of voice. Your advertising budgets are going to be minuscule compared to the behemoth brands, the established legacy products. And so we realized, we were like, okay, how do we make our advertising work harder, work smarter? How do we break through? And for us, that meant stepping away from the very traditional commercials that you see in the space. So that meant goodbye dental office, goodbye white lab coat, hello storytelling. And so what better way to tell a story than to use the story of your own consumer? So consumer reviews, qualitative research, talking to the people that use this really inspired us to create an amazing campaign for TheraBreath called Swishy Time. So Swishy Time has been on air now for about a year and a half. And this whole campaign is about transformation. As I mentioned, the gentleman I met outside told us, TheraBreath changed my life. That is a very, very common sentiment to hear from consumers. And you're like, wow, that's amazing, that's empowering. How do we bottle that up and how do we tell that story? So in our commercials, you have a person swishing and they're looking in the mirror. But what they see in the mirror is their best self. So they see a modified version of themselves. And what's happening in the story is TheraBreath is allowing their best self to come through. So they can show up to that interview and nail it. They can show up to the first date and have a second date. So it really gives people the confidence to achieve whatever it is that they want to do. It's been an amazing, amazing campaign. I'd love to actually queue up. We have a brand new spot. Today is the very, very, very first day we are showing it. It's not on air yet, but this is a spot for one of our 2024 innovations, which is our Deep Clean mouthwash. So we'll go ahead and watch it, and then I'll talk a little bit more.
This is Carmen. Before using TheraBreath mouthwash, she worried about getting a deep clean for her dinner party. Now,
it's swishy time!
swishing with TheraBreath Deep Clean Antiseptic Mouthwash kills 99.9% of germs.
99.9? Who's the hostess with the mostest?
Plus, it's alcohol-free, so there's no burn.
You didn't burn your mouth? For dinner!
So when Carmen looks in the mirror, she loves what she sees.
You get that, I got this.
Try dentist-formulated TheraBreath Deep Clean Antiseptic Mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash, I guarantee it.
It's really fun. We shot that 4 weeks ago, so it is really, really hot off the press. Actually, maybe last 3 weeks ago. So we're so excited for the evolution of the Swishy Time campaign and to bring Carmen to life. She's an amazing character. And when we were thinking about this, sorry, I know I'm jumping ahead in our queue. When we were thinking about this, we were like, okay, what is the story for Deep Clean? How do we create something really compelling? And we were like, all right, let's go to the data. And we were like, well, antiseptic mouthwashes over-index with Hispanic consumers. TheraBreath over-indexes with Hispanic consumers. So let's write a story about a Hispanic character. And we actually worked really closely with our international and our team in Mexico. in the casting process, because we were like, let's make sure we're being authentic here. So I loved doing that. And then we also said, all right, how do you bring that deep clean to life? And we were like, well, being meticulous, being fastidious, like all of those things, it's like a double entendre on deep clean, right? So you kind of get the emphasis in the storytelling. And this character was loosely inspired by our head of creative's family. He's like, just the matriarch in his family, and how she really takes so much pride and care in like everything in her house, in the cleanliness of her house, and the stuff she's putting on the table, however she's hosting. And so she helped inspire Carmen and bring her to life.
I love it. That's fantastic. When we think about everything you just described, right, working with your counterparts in Mexico around that casting, it reminds me of the conversation we were having about how you work differently in the way you run your marketing, how you're even organized. You've talked about being a small team that doesn't have huge budgets. What is different in the way that you bring these stories to life than maybe some of your larger counterparts at Church & Dwight?
Yeah, so this is still a surprise to me to this day, but TheraBreath does not have an agency of record. Like, we don't have an AOR. We have a media agency and we have a PR team, but we don't have an ad agency that's sitting there. And I think that different framework or structure has actually enabled us to brief better, create faster, be more nimble. It just shocks me that like somebody from the top hasn't been like, why don't you have an AOR? I'm like, we don't need one, right? The TheraBreath team is so like, TheraBreath is embedded within us. Like, we all just exude passion for this brand, for this product, for everything that we can bring to consumers' lives. And as a result, like, we like to keep all of our partners like really, really close, right? And so we don't want an AOR and then a production team. It's like, let's bring it in closer. Like, let's work more intimately. It is a lot about like that intimacy piece.
Do you feel like you guys have been able to teach other brands in your world within Church & Dwight?
Absolutely. I think the biggest learning for Church & Dwight was proving out that an oral care brand can be fun and exciting and sexy on social media. There was a lot of skepticism. Everyone was like, oh no, it's just the beauty brands. Only they can do that. And I was like, well, we are the TikTok mouthwash. So when we brought the social, when we integrated after acquisition and brought all of the social in-house, we really proved that out. And it has been so successful. So other brands of ours, like Arm & Hammer toothpaste, wildly successful on TikTok, right? Like, they have been able to learn a lot from what we've done on social and implement some of those strategies themselves.
That's great. For the rest of everybody in the room, what would you say, other CPGs, other big brands can learn just overall from how you were able to take this challenger mindset and continue to push forward? I mean, you guys are, as you said, the #1 non-alcohol mouthwash.
Yes. Actually, did I say that? I may have forgotten. It was definitely in my notes, but it's true.
I did my homework.
So when we bought the brand, we were the #2 brand in alcohol-free mouthwash. So all TheraBreath mouthwashes are actually alcohol-free, purposefully. And so that's the only part of the category that we play in. And over the last 2 years, we've gained 20 share points in the alcohol-free segment and outseated the legacy brand that was there. So for the past 6 months, we've been the #1 brand in alcohol-free, which is very exciting. And what I would suggest to I think I have 2 points for suggestion. One for current challenger brands, and then a second one for like big CPG companies looking to acquire a challenger brand and like follow this model. So for the challenger brands, I would say, keep your eye on the prize and don't make sacrifices, because a sacrifice is not going to benefit your business or your consumer. And then for a CPG company, I would say, don't forsake profit for product. So the mouthwash that is in this bottle today is the same mouthwash that was there the day Church & Dwight bought it. It's the same mouthwash that was there for years earlier. In fact, it says on the bottle, this, like, the packaging may have changed, but, the formula inside has remained the same since whatever year it was, like, developed. So that is really important. And I think something that is a pitfall or a watch out for big CPGs acquiring smaller brands. It's like, oh, well, we can bring scale and we can become more profitable through a number of reasons. And one of the ways that sometimes happens, unfortunately, is like changes to formulation or stripping stuff out. And that sacrifices your product and your efficacy, and then you're going to lose all credibility with consumers. So that's a big watch out I would give to any other company.
That's great. Thank you. So I know we're running out of time here, but inquiring minds want to know, what is your favorite product?
So I approach my oral care in a way that's similar to how other consumers might approach like a beauty or like a skincare routine. It's different in the morning than it is at night for me. So my current favorite mouthwash is our overnight rinse, which is the lovely lavender bottle in the center of the podium, and there's a little moon on the label. This is also a 2024 launch. You can find it in your local Rite Aid when they reset their shelves. And actually deep clean and overnight, so the gold and the lavender bottle. But overnight is really my favorite for a few reasons. I am absolutely obsessed with the flavor. It's chamomile mint. It is amazing and delicious. Second is that the formulation is incredible. So it has both fluoride and sodium chloride. Fluoride, everyone probably knows, right? It strengthens your teeth, it rebuilds your enamel. So it's like an amazing product to like swish with before you go to sleep because you're not eating, drinking, or talking when you're in bed. So it like the fluoride can really work uninterrupted, I like to say. But the other ingredient I mentioned, like that's our ingredient that fights the bad breath bacteria. So the product does help prevent bad breath for 12 hours. It will not eliminate morning breath. God, that would be amazing. But it does, unfortunately, that does not happen. But I like to say it hits snooze on morning breath.
I love it. I also love the thought of sleeping 12 hours, so I appreciate it. That's great. All right. I think we're going to open it up to questions.
Hey guys, my name is Luis. I work at a company called Cargo. I live in Philly and so happy that Brand Innovators is here. You guys are a great community and I hope that, some of us can see each other again, those that are in the Philadelphia area. And Caitlin, I loved your presentation. You're so excited about the brand and it really speaks to how awesome it is. Also, we have one of those we live in a row home, so our bathroom's on the second floor. We have a bottle on our first floor so that you can rinse before you go out. And my first question is, can I have one of those? You don't have to commit. I'm sure there's other people that want one. And then my second question is, as a challenger brand with limited budgets and you have this beautifully, curated video that you put together, how do you choose who you want to go after first? Because, everybody needs mouthwash, but how do we choose where to spend that limited budget?
Yeah, that is a really, really great question. And when we acquired the brand, the marketing team, I asked them, I was like, who's your target consumer? And they were like, well, everybody has a mouth. True, but let's approach this a little bit more efficiently. So remember the questions I asked earlier about like who's heard of TheraBreath, who has used it? Because our awareness is so low, different tactics of our media plan work for different reasons. So our TV is going to be more upper funnel. That's going to be a really big awareness play. So we're going to buy media that is going to just truly get people to like know TheraBreath. Oh, TheraBreath, I've heard of that. I know it, right? So that is a little bit of an older consumer, but we also will run connected TV to get those cord cutters, younger consumers. And then on social, we definitely go towards like our younger consumer there because we have almost 50% of our shoppers are both Gen Z and millennial, which is like super high index compared to the rest of the category. At the end of the day, it is all about like making decisions and just being really smart with it, right? So TV awareness is very, very important because like that's going to bring the biggest feeder into our consumer decision journey. And we like to focus on, partnering with our media agency, of course, and, making sure we are on the stations where people are watching, right? I think viewership, day parts, like all of that like kind of comes into play. And it's a true partnership to make those final ultimate decisions. But I would love to be on 52 weeks a year. Unfortunately, we're not, right? So it is just saying like, what are the must-haves? And then choosing from that point on.
Hi there. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Barrett. Thank you for that. Love the energy. Really looking forward to some swishy time when I go home tonight. I'm Tom Pugh. I'm formerly Danone Nutricia. I'm now part of the Been There, Done That agency partner network. I think my question for you is, as a challenger brand, I love seeing, what a great opportunity to reinvent the category norms, and exciting for you guys. I'm just wondering whether, as a challenger, do you ever look externally to other challengers and wonder whether 1 + 1 might equal 3? Looking at the brands like Lume deodorant, they seem to have a similar setup to you, origin story, tackling no chemicals, etc. And whether partnering with them or whether you get inspired by what they do might help be able to help each other.
Yes and yes. Constantly, right? Like our lens is open all the time to say, like, where can we get inspiration from? Personally, one of the brands that inspires me so much is Frida, like Frida Baby, Frida Mom. But in terms of brands that are really similar to TheraBreath, we're always looking at that. So one of the reports that came out recently from Numerator was, top brands that resonate with Gen Z. Last year, TheraBreath was number 5 on that list. This year, we were number 4. So that was amazing and exciting. We moved up the ranks and we're like, what are the other brands on there? Like, do we want to partner with them? Do we want to do stuff together? Whether it's a social media giveaway, an in-store promotion, I think the opportunities are endless and we're always, looking at those.
Any other questions? I have one last one. You really address well the whole internal cultural issue of a challenger brand joining a large company, and how do you keep that inspiration still going? And then you briefly mentioned that the bottles say same old formula. One of my biggest problems with companies like this is it's a brand that I love, they get bought by someone and I go, okay, we're done. I'm done with them because I know it's going to change. So other than that, are you doing anything, you're advertising to assure people that the brand is still the same? And if I missed that, I apologize.
No, but I love the idea. I don't think we've said it explicitly, but consumers would know right away. Like, the efficacy of the product is one of the key differentiators. Like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Katz created this product so consumers no longer had to make sacrifices or compromises. The 2 compromises that they told us about when we bought this was either they were suffering through a burning sensation with other mouthwashes, or they just didn't use mouthwash because nothing worked, right? So that efficacy piece is really, really important. And if we changed that formula, they would know, immediately. So
I'm an obsessive label reader, but that comes with being plant-based and starting to realize what's in things.
We're certified vegan.
Excuse me?
We're certified vegan.
Oh, look at that. Awesome. Perfect. Well, guys, thank you very much. Let's give them a big hand.